Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Emerging Visionaries. My name is, yay! My name is Scott Quinn, and I have the pleasure of serving as Executive Director of the Marin Interfaith Council. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever you believe, whomever you love, welcome. This is your home. Thank you for being here today. So this is our 17th annual Visionary event, and we're thrilled to be together in person again, and also to be gathering online. So thank you for those of you who are joining us online. Our theme tonight is faith in action. What vision is emerging for how people of faith or people of deep spirit can take action and make a difference in the world? How is it that our values and presence guide us to engage challenging issues and people? What does it look like when we show up as our whole selves and call others to show up as their best and whole selves? While our speakers tonight will offer their perspectives, we are all emerging visionaries. Each one of us is being called here and now to be a presence of healing and radical, active love. That's the spirit in which we gather tonight as emerging visionaries. So thank you so much for being with us. So we begin tonight with an invocation from Nancy Roybal, whom I have the joy of knowing as a ray of sunshine on our Marin Interfaith Board of Directors, and who is also with the International Association of Sufism. Nancy.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to thank my teachers, my school, and my path for granting me the wisdom and this opportunity to share with you tonight a prayer that opens the Holy Quran, the Fatiha. The Fatiha is in the name of the Creator, who is the source of the unity of all of creation. The blessings of the Creator rain down equally on all of creation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah ar-Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal lazina an'amta alaihim ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment, thee do we worship, thine aid do we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and those who go not astray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. This is the 40th year of the Marin Interfaith Council, and our mission to celebrate faith, advocate justice, and build community. One way we've been describing our work is Interfaith 3.0. Interfaith 1.0 is to coexist in peace and not harm each other. Interfaith 2.0 is to collaborate in order to alleviate suffering and learn from each other in the process. Interfaith 3.0 builds on these foundations with a further intention to change consciousness, to awaken hearts and minds. We refocus our human eyes to a spiritual perspective where we see every being as kin in one interdependent and connected web of being. And this perspective and way of being in the world upends business as usual, bridges divides, and can awaken the same awareness in others. One meeting, one conversation, one act of justice at a time to make our world more whole. You are Interfaith 3.0. You are the Marin Interfaith Council, like-hearted people of every faith and no faith. As together, we create a community, a world where everyone is welcome and can thrive. Thank you for joining us in that tonight and every day. And this work is possible because of your support, all of you gathered here tonight, those of you joining online, and we're deeply grateful for all your amazing generosity. If anyone would like to make a donation tonight and further our mission, you can make a gift online at marinifc.org and click the donate button. Or those of you in person, if you look on the back of your program, you'll see a QR code that you can use to make a donation using your cell phone. So let's have a few acknowledgments tonight. One is for the United Religions Initiative. Tahil was going to join us tonight, but I don't see him with us. So we're blessed to be part of what's known as the United Religions Initiative. And we're what's known as a cooperation circle, which is a group of at least 7 members who follow 3 or more faith traditions, including atheists, agnostics, and humanists, taking any kind of action to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing. And our MIC cooperation circle is one of over 1,000 circles in over 100 countries. So there's some more information on a table when you leave, or for those of you joining us online, go to uri.org to learn more. Also with us tonight is Father Jerry Caprio, Executive Director of the Interfaith Center of the Presidio. Where are you, Father Jerry? There you are, right in the back. So, Father Jerry, we're very blessed to have the Interfaith Center of the Presidio, which is the convener of all the Bay Area interfaith councils and organizations. So we're so pleased to have you here with us, a fellow Marin resident and a person of like heart and spirit that brightens up our entire Bay Area. Thank you, Father Jerry, for being with us tonight. And a big thank you to our friends here at Westminster Presbyterian Church for hosting us in person and online, to Pastor Rob McClellan and to Pastor Bethany Nelson. We're so grateful for your support, not only hosting us, for your technological support, and for the love that you've prayed into this building and welcomed us into. We're so thankful to you for creating this loving space for us to gather tonight. And a special thank you to all of our sponsors. And I invite you, when I call your organization's name, if you're here with one of our sponsoring organizations or individuals, to please stand up and a bow of gratitude to those who are joining us from home. So our sponsors, the Dominican Sisters of San Rafael, St. Anselm Catholic Church, Kaiser Permanente, St. Rita Catholic Church, First Presbyterian Church of San Rafael, Dominican University of California's Institute for Leadership Studies, Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of San Rafael, Fair Housing Advocates of Northern California, Interlude and Associates, Jewish Family and Children's Services, Marin JCC, and individual sponsors who are with us tonight. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, sponsors, for making this possible and for your continued work, and for all of you for your support. I'd also like to thank the San Francisco Foundation and especially Marin Community Foundation for your amazing support, which enables Marin Interfaith Council to continue its work. And I'd like to finally also acknowledge a couple of people, our MIC Board of Directors. So if any of you are here with us tonight, and former board members, any former board members, anyone who's previously been a board member. And while we're at it, Sherna, who's our appointee to the Buck Family Fund. Sherna Dima. And to our volunteers who have been with us tonight. Any of you volunteered who helped us tonight? That's you, Sheila, Ann, Elizabeth, yes, Georgia. And a final thank you to my coworker, Esmeralda, who I think is still outside working, and to my coworker, Reverend Lynn Oldham Robinette. Busy doing work. Thanks to them. So now we turn our attention to our speakers, and before we do so, just an invitation for all of us. This is a beautiful Sabbath time for these beautiful devices. Look how tired, they've worked so hard all day long. They just want to rest. They just want to rest. So tonight, we'll turn our attention to our speakers. After that, we'll have some time to have some conversation. But first, we turn to our speakers. And I invite everyone gathered here tonight just to relax, listen, be inspired, be challenged, and reflect on how you might be called into putting your faith into action, which is our theme tonight. Perhaps there are new and deeper ways that come to you as you listen to the conversation that's about to unfold. So we're very blessed to have two wonderful, wonderful friends of the Marin Interfaith Council tonight. We have Reverend Deborah Lee, who's Executive Director of the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity. Reverend Lee has worked at the intersection of faith and social justice for over 25 years in popular education, community organizing, and advocacy, connecting issues of race, gender, economic justice, anti-militarism, LGBTQ inclusion, and immigrant rights. She has consistently sought to strengthen the voice and role of faith communities in today's social movements. And her guidance and support has also enabled the Marin Interfaith Council to create an accompaniment network of faith communities who provide supports for immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees. We're so grateful to have Reverend Deborah Lee with us tonight. And we're also blessed to have a special friend of the Marin Interfaith Council, heart and soul of our Interfaith Council. So she's cringing a little bit right now as I say that. And in her bio that she sent us, she said, Elaine is a humble Baha'i who resides in San Rafael, and she most certainly dedicates her career and her personal life to the betterment of humanity. For the past 5 years, Elaine has served as Director of Volunteer Services at the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership, where she gets to lead a team of amazing change makers whose lives are dedicated to service. Elaine has also served as an MIC board member and as chair for the committee that selects MIC's appointee to the Buck Family Fund. And she's been a leader and liaison helping MIC and faith communities prepare for and respond to disasters. If there's something going on in the community that involves justice, Elaine is there with her shining presence. And Reverend Deborah Lee has been so in our entire Bay Area for many years. And we're so grateful to have both of them with us. Both Elaine and Reverend Deborah Lee are great friends of the Marin Interfaith Council, and my heart is filled with gratitude, love, and appreciation for both of them. I welcome you to come forward, and perhaps you can each start by telling us a bit about your hunger for faith and action and the journey that that's taking you on. Please welcome Reverend Deborah Lee and Marin Tokalaris.
I've always wanted to be one of those TV hosts, you know. So Debbie, tell me.
No, you first.
We'll respond to Scott's question in a moment, but we first wanted to tell you how we know each other already.
This is why we said yes. No.
So I was on the MIC board for a long time, and can you hear me? Okay. So I was on the MIC board for a long time, and so I thought, oh, Scott's asking me. That's really nice. I wonder who my partner will be. And he said, it's Reverend Deborah Lee. And I went, oh my God, she married my husband and me. And he didn't know that.
Yeah.
We were searching for an interfaith pastor who really reflected our values. And in the Baha'i faith, we don't have clergy, but it was important for us, for our extended families, that we have clergy. And so we were looking for the best person around that we thought really embodied faith in action. And so Debbie married us. Yeah.
Their wedding is one of my best memories of Marin County. You know, it was like, oh yeah, so I drive over, I live in the East Bay, when I drive over the bridge, I was like, oh yeah, this is where they got married, and such a good thought and memory. So the chance to, Scott said we're just going to be talking to each other, so we're like, sure, you know, to reconnect, and of course to say yes to this community and reconnect with the MIC community too.
And I met Debbie, or Reverend Deborah, but I call her Debbie. We met because right after I became Baha'i, and I was working at the Global Fund for Women, helping women from Asia and the Pacific Islands further their human rights. And so we had a guest speaker from the International Movement for Women for Genuine Security. Mm-hmm. And what was Women for Genuine Security?
Women for Genuine Security is a group of women's, it's a feminist organization in the United States aligned to end U.S. militarism and its effects around the world.
And it was, militarism is something in the Pacific that you don't talk about. It's very taboo. And my family on my mom's side is from the Pacific Islands. And so I was just immediately taken with this wonderful person because she was a pastor and she was making waves. And she was involved in this space that I thought was beautiful. I had just come out of a period of civil unrest when I was living in Tonga, in the Pacific Islands, and so I was feeling quite broken in my spirit. And then here I meet someone who's amazing, and then I started volunteering with her and her husband, and they were doing really great work around youth rights in the East Bay. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that kind of brings us here today.
Yeah, it brings us here. We've done some work with Asian Pacific Islander and other youth of color, and as soon as Fatai and Elaine came into the room, they knew they had some real mentors. And especially, there's not a lot of spaces where you can talk about all of your life in one space. You know, talk about culture, talk about justice, you know, talk about the things that work in your family, the things that don't work in your family, you know, and so to be able to have adult mentors like Fatai and Elaine, who especially younger Pacific Islander young people could look up to and see how they had navigated their lives and their own vocations to live in the world was really an amazing testament and gift.
And then we looked up to you and your husband, Michael. So it was just the cycle that kind of continues. Don't look at my husband, he's crying in the front row. Yeah. So faith in action.
Yeah. What's been your hunger and your journey to faith in action?
Oh goodness. Why don't you start with your work? And that, what do you think?
She's the hometown. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let me say something just about my hunger for faith. I'm someone who's like a third or fourth generation Christian. my family's converted to Christianity in Asia, in Hong Kong on one side and in Indonesia on the other side of my family. So Christianity was a faith I grew up in and grew up with. I was the first one in my family to be born in the United States. So I kind of grew up with Christianity, and it was an important cultural space for my family as an immigrant family to have a social life, to connect, to meet people. We didn't have extended family in the States, so it was, a place to have extended family. But for me, though, the thirst was there pretty early on that, was this faith going to matter? Mm-hmm. Was it going to mean something? Because there are, life and death issues going on. There are life and death issues going on today. And in my life, when I was growing up in northeastern Ohio, there felt like there were life and death issues then, too. There were issues about race. There was issues around gender discrimination, as a young woman. And I guess I kept wondering if my faith had anything to say about those things that mattered in my life. Unfortunately, I was growing up with a brand of Christianity that wasn't really addressing it. And I think this kind of crisis of relevancy that we're asking ourselves, especially as the Christian community, not just a crisis of relevancy, I think it's a crisis of integrity, a crisis of goodness, where I think Christianity has to really come face to face with white supremacy and our history on this continent. I guess I was looking for that, when I was 16 years old, and I wondered about that, and how did the faith and the politics and the way we understood our world come together? So I want to just credit, it's the All Saints, Dia de los Muertos period of the year, and I just want to credit some people who helped really guide me on that journey to faith and justice. And one I think is, for me, growing up in northeastern Ohio, it was the Black freedom movement in the United States. And my mom, as an immigrant mom, buying me a scholastic book about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and me seeing pictures of the first time of a mass movement of people of color where I didn't see any around me. And he was telling stories and speaking words that resonated with my faith. I recognized those stories, but he was connecting it to conditions in the world. So I want to just, remember Dr. King and credit many of the other people in the Black freedom movement, across the United States, that many we don't even know their names, and how that could influence a Chinese immigrant kid. It's they probably never imagined that. And then the others I want to think of are some Catholic sisters in Brazil, where I worked as a volunteer, and they were very influenced by Sister Ivone Jabara in northeastern Brazil, and they were called sisters, irmãs inseridas, sisters inserted in the community. They weren't in the cloister, but they were in the favelas, and they were on the streets, and to me they were practicing this is what faith looks like, and this is when faith makes a difference in the world.
It's so fascinating, because as you're talking about being young, I'm thinking about growing up as well and thirsting for faith and thirsting for action separately, not knowing they could be together until later. And I grew up across the street from where we are now. So if you just, in the stoplight where we turned left, just turn right. You turned right, turn left, turn right, and there's my house that I grew up in. And I come from a mixed family, mixed ethnically, mixed nationally, and mixed religiously. So my dad, maybe he's watching, or he'll watch the recording, his mom was Jewish, and his father wasn't a religion, but we know was influenced by sort of Native American teachings on spirituality. And then on my mom's side, we're from the Pacific Islands, and my grandfather was a Christian pastor, and my grandmother became Mormon while married to a Christian pastor. Scandal. Yeah, big scandal in the family. And so I had these these different thoughts around, and my parents found each other, and what they taught me about faith or about God was about God is in your heart. And my mom, I think she's watching. Hi, Mom. My mom would say, church in Tonga, church is the place where people gossip and talk about your shoes and your clothes, and if you're there, and they just blah, 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 blah. And so it's not a place that feels like that there's God, but God is in your heart. You have to be a good person, do good things. And so that's how we were brought up. And then my dad was similar, where he went just be in nature, be outside, listen to the stillness, listen to beautiful music, see the beauty in everyday things, and in helping people. And so I wanted something, I don't know why, but I was really thirsty for something that I couldn't quite grasp. And I remember even being 6 years old, and then growing up here in San Rafael, and thinking at 14, I learned about Buddhism, and I went, oh, suffering is in every, okay, and learning about the Eightfold Path and all these things, and being excited about it, and then being 17 in that house over there, and watching the movie The Prince of Egypt about Moses, right, freeing the Jews, and crying and feeling, thinking about my Jewish ancestors and also Judaism, and just crying. And then going to the islands and being in, or going to Utah, we were just in Utah, going to Arizona, going to Mormon temple, and listening to testimony, no clergy, but regular everyday people, and I was still looking. And then I went to Tonga to volunteer, to give back, because I just wanted to be different, and a lot of my colleagues after college and graduate school wanted to go make as much money as possible. And I wanted to go make a difference. And so I went to Tonga to volunteer for a year, and it ended up being 2.5 years. I met my husband, and found the Baha'i faith in the islands. And I thought, this is it. This is it. I found it, and it had the answers where we're called upon to work on ourselves individually. So that was what I was longing for, that faith, that God in my heart. And then we're called to do that, to foster our own spiritual development, and then serve others. And serve others in the most necessary, pressing ways possible, and spread love, justice, and unity. And I was like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And so we're here. I mean, skip a bunch of years, but yeah. So what do you think about day to day with what are the issues that are pressing for you, Debbie?
Yeah. Well, I feel like in my search, and I hope that our conversation makes you think about your own yearnings, right? The own yearnings you've had in your life. I'm fortunate I've landed into an organization which I felt kind of embodies other people who have the same yearnings and who want to come together from their own faith. We're a multi-faith organization, so people are coming together from their own faith perspectives, but they're coming together to seek justice and to seek the transforming of the wider world. I mean, both through some of the things like Scott, you were mentioning, this transformation of consciousness, transformation of awareness, this breaking down of barriers that we have, and then for us as an organizing group, it's also about changing power, right? Transforming power, or having enough power to transform bad power, And so the laws and the institutions and the structures that continue to create harm. So we are an organizing group. We have named as an organization, the two key kind of civil rights issues of our day right now, which are the ways that immigrants are criminalized, and ways that people who have been incarcerated or formerly incarcerated or affected by the carceral system. The U.S. has the largest carceral system in the world. 2 million people today in our population are incarcerated. We have the largest immigration detention system. We spend the most money of any immigration enforcement, on immigration enforcement as any country in the world. So organization has said, we're an organization that fights for the dignity and the full inclusion of all immigrants and people who've been impacted by incarceration. And we want to move with faith communities who also want to respond from their faith. So much of our faith teaching is about migrants, is about prisoners, is about how do we respond in the face of people who are being excluded and are being stigmatized and are being cast out as dangerous or threatening or other or just like outside the body, So that's what, we've been doing as an organization. And I know some of you here because for many years we organized a vigil at the Richmond Detention Facility, which was serving here in Northern California. The good news is that in the last 5 years, 5 detention centers in California have closed. The bad news is there's still 7 more, and 6 of those are for-profit prisons. Oh my God. So very hard, no matter how much we talk to the Board of Supervisors or the City Council people or the Congress people, it's a much harder game to change unless we have that shift in consciousness that Scott's talking about.
I'm getting excited. So in the Baha'i faith, we say that the systems as they stand need to disintegrate, and they will. They're not sustainable. Environmentally, socially, in terms of justice, economically, we need to retool all the systems and imbue everything with spirituality. And when I was looking at your bio again and seeing what you're up to, I was taken by abolishing prisons and abolishing these systems. Sometimes when we get fired, or when I get fired up of like, yeah, we need to break it down, tangibly, I'm not sure how to go about doing that. How does someone think about where we are today to the abolishment of prisons? Like, what's required in that?
I think we need to infuse things with the values of faithful values. And I think, Ruth Gilmore, who's the academic who kind of talks a lot about abolition, she talks about life is precious where life is precious. So, I know Fatai works a lot with the homeless in this county, and it's like, are their lives being treated as precious? And if you're not being treated as precious, how do you know how to treat others? What kind of environment and conditions do you have to treat others as precious? So I think as faith communities, how do we bring in the precious? How do we bring sacred presence where things have been abandoned, separated, destroyed, and all of that? But I want to go back to your piece about the Baha'i faith and structures and what do you think the value added of faith brings to action or to change?
It's a big question. So something I'm struggling with now, or dealing now in my own way, is finding hope in dark times and drawing on my belief in the ever powerful presence that we sit in now and that we breathe in and out, and that is in us. We're on a floating ball in the middle of black space. So sometimes we forget about that. And we have, from our Baha'i teaching, we have a creator, and we can look to this source. And a part of my action in my own life is about mental health. And I'm on the County of Marin's mental health board at the moment. It's been about a year. And I live with my own mental health challenges. And so does a lot of members of my family. And so whether or not you have those kind of challenges, it can be hard when you fall into a deep place where you can't see, where it's just blackness around and you feel despair inside. But then that's where God lives. and there's a spark inside. Excuse me for getting emotional. But what's left but that spark? And then if you fan the flame, then you can continue and be brave. And it might take time. But for me, I take that, I need that. I need to remember the specks of God that are within me and that are presented as me. And then use that to be courageous. And then I can try and help other people, like I was mentioning with that twofold calling, like foster your own spiritual development and then help the world become a better place. So I try and foster my own development on a regular basis with a lot of help from people in this room, a lot of really lovely, wonderful people here. And then try and tackle systems like mental health, the mental health board. I mean,
Yeah.
what a broken system. It is the most broken system I've seen. It's just the care is so incredibly hard to get for people all across the board. And so I hope that I can advocate for change. And a lot of that advocating for change in my life is quiet. Like there's advocacy that is essential, like going and abolishing something that you can see, like a detention center. And then my version is quiet with a microphone to say things like, I don't think that healthcare system should be charging that. And then asking questions that poke and then eventually lead to things going away.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Elaine. And I think that like a key thing there you talked about is courage, right? And we need courage for the internal work.
Yeah.
And we need courage for the external work, right? And how faith helps to nurture our courageousness, helps us exercise courage.
And provide guidance.
Yeah.
Guidance in really tough decisions when I feel like I'm blinded by sadness or I'm blinded by despair, then I have holy writings and I can go, okay, the spark in me, there's writings there that I can put that to words.
Yeah.
And so some critical decisions in life are made in those moments. And then they're most beautiful, pure decisions then.
Guidance.
Yeah.
Yes.
And courage can come from that.
Yeah. I think these times are really hard if you're, if you care about, breathing or, if you care about things. So I do think our faith, it's sustaining. And I know all of you are doing all kinds of things at all kinds of levels, but can we tap into our faith to sustain us? That is one of the gifts I think we have than a political organization or other kinds of activists or other kinds of people taking action, is that we can go back. One, we can recognize that spark within. We have sacred texts. We have sacred practices. We have rituals. We have things that can help to nourish us and to remind us that we didn't have to do it all in our lifetime, but we're carrying the baton. We're passing the baton on, and we are also not doing it alone. We are doing it surrounded in love, surrounded by love and a mystery and that beyond our imagination is also at our back and also with us.
I think that seems pretty right on. I mean, the people, if I didn't have my faith community, I feel like I would be so lost. And there's a question in the public area. We were talking about this with Scott, and how oftentimes people think faith is irrelevant today. We have technology, we have this and that. What's the purpose of faith? But I mean, I wouldn't have a way to get out of the despair in my, that despair feeling and I wouldn't have a community of people that I love and love me. I love you guys, but thank you so much for being here. Like, you're amazing. But I feel like what's so relevant today, and I'm just one person up here, and it could be anybody who's watching, sharing the same story. But I feel like we can all use that spark in our heart.
Yeah, and we get to do it in community, and I think that's the amazing thing, and that's the yearning. Many in the younger generation have that yearning. They're yearning for community. They're yearning for meaning. They may not think they're going to find it in our institutions, and that's okay, but that they have those same yearnings.
And it's what you said before about there are very few places where you can be your whole entire self. And how beautiful could it be to be in a faith community to do that? And in the Baha'i community, we say, every person is noble. Everyone has gifts. And our job is to teach the young people to uncover their own gifts. And we can uncover our gifts at any age. But there's so much hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Scott's telling us to stop. Thanks for
Thank
listening
you,
to us.
everyone.
Let's have one more round of applause for Debbie and Joanne. So now it's time for you to reflect on what you just heard. For those of you in person, you'll see discussion questions on your program. For those of you at home, I'll read them aloud for you. We'll have about 10 minutes to discuss with a partner here in person or to reflect at home, and then we'll come back for a closing benediction. So here are your discussion or reflection questions. Based on what you just heard, what inspired you? What challenged you? What is one specific action you might take? What inspired you? What challenged you? What is one specific action you might take? So I invite you to turn to someone next to you or reflect on this at home, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes and close. right, everybody, if you begin to wrap up your conversation. Hope you had a good connection and discussion with some people around you, or a good reflection at home. And if you desire to continue the conversation, you may want to join us at a future event. Some examples coming up are monthly meditation, in which a different spiritual leader leads us in a spiritual practice every second Wednesday. Our next one is Wednesday, November 9th, next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom with Barbara Buckley. Another option is our new monthly program called Get to Know Your Neighbor's Faith, Ask Me Anything, every third Wednesday, 6 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church, San Rafael, also live streamed. So our next one will be Wednesday, November 16th at 6 p.m. with Monsignor Harry Schlitt talking about his Roman Catholic faith. These and other opportunities are found in our twice monthly e-newsletter, so please join us as we continue to put Interfaith 3.0 into action. And again, a beautiful, wonderful, heartfelt thank you to Elaine and to Reverend Deborah for speaking tonight. Elaine, would you bless us with a closing prayer, please?
Just a little preface before the prayer. So in the Baha'i faith, we have this concept of the most great peace and another called the lesser peace. So the most great peace can happen in Interfaith 3.0, where all the systems are imbued with spirituality and we are beautifully united. The lesser peace is known as the one that can be achieved on the path that we're on now. So where there's nations that are united, yet some are still at war, etc. Along that path is the lesser peace. So we're striving for the most great peace. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family, and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and the powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who has overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. May your sense of the holy, however you experience the holy, heal and inspire you. May your heart's true desire burn away all fear and free you to be your fullest self in the world. May your great talent and the world's great need meet at the intersection of meaning and purpose. And may companions like these and opportunities like these rise to meet you each day with gifts of resilience and peace. Thank you. Blessed be. Amen. Amen. Thank you for joining us tonight.